What's up everyone, Vu of MVU Films back with another video. And the most dangerous thing a person like myself could do in the morning is take a dump. Because while I sit there pushing out a massive turd filled with things Asian people eat, such as rice, fish, soy sauce, I scroll through threads, YouTube, Instagram, and I start analyzing, I start thinking, and then I come up with ideas. And next thing you know, the plan that I had this morning of working on client video edits, I end up sitting here and doing a YouTube video. Because if I don't get this out of my mind, it would bother me for the rest of the day and I can't really focus. I just gotta speak my mind when I got these ideas and I just gotta get rid of it. So today I wanna talk about Sony as a camera brand and if they are falling behind in terms of comparing to other camera brands. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm a Sony fanboy douchebag trash, all right? I started doing this in 2014 and I basically owned almost every single Sony mirrorless camera body. You're talking about from Sony Nex 6, every single one of the APS-C, 6000 lineup, other than the 6700, A7III, A7R3, A7S2, A7S3, FX3, ZVE1, A7 IV. Sony, I own all that. Okay. And Sony has not let me down. Sony has allowed me to quit my old accounting job and become a full-time videographer, filmmaker, content creator, YouTube douchebag trash back in 2019 and has never failed me. Like, these cameras have been reliable. They've done what I needed to do and they continue to do what I need to do. Provide for my family, the whole 9 yards. So I'm not about to come up here and straight up slander Sony. At the same time, I don't really care what camera you use. I don't care what you do with your life. I don't care if you wipe your ass with toilet paper. I don't care if you use a bidet, a lorta, whatever it is that you're into doing with your butt. Like, you do you, I do me. I don't care, whatever works for you. But in my opinion, Sony is not falling behind. And I'm not switching from Sony to go to Panasonic, okay? And the most popular new spec that everyone talks about is open gate. Open gate? I completely understand the benefits of open gate, and the most popular, most affordable, accessible camera out there with open gate, S5 Mark II-X, S1R Mark II, the S in S1R Mark II or S5 Mark II-X. That S stands for shill because all of the two doucher shills out there are loving the Panasonic, okay? Let me reiterate that I don't care what camera you use, right? And I recognize what Panasonic is good at, and I really don't give a shit about it. Open gate, to me, is a luxury, not a necessity. Would I like open gate in my camera? Sure. How often will I be using it? Not very. So let's just put it that way. The only camera that I will use open gate on all the time, 100% of the time, is my DJI Action 5 Pro, which I use it as POV cam when I go fishing and I'm recording videos. I want to make a reel out of it or a horizontal video with it. I can because I have a more square aspect ratio, 4:3, 3:2, whatever it is. And that's the idea with Panasonic. Open gate's two biggest benefits is the ability to be able to frame a vertical video or horizontal 16:9 video. And of course, getting the most out of your anamorphic lenses in terms of squeezing and getting using the full sensor and all that stuff. I'm not going to explain it, but basically if you want to use the maximum resolution that your camera can produce with the sensor it has, being able to film open gate with anamorphic is the way to go. Because no matter how you twist it, filming anamorphic on a 16:9 portion of a 4:3 sensor, I think it's 4:3, 3:2, whatever, you're gonna get more information. You're gonna be able to use, your camera is gonna be recording more resolution versus you're gonna be losing resolution when you use anamorphic on a 16:9. And the S5 Mark II-X, you could use the actual full sensor and get your open gate with the full sensor, up to 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second. On the S1R Mark II, you can do part of the sensor. So you're actually cropping in, but still getting like an open gate of that crop in, if that makes any sense. So you're cropping into the sensor, but you're still getting like the square aspect ratio, and then you're still making the most use out of that. Like if I was going to switch to Panasonic, which I'm not, I won't go for the S1R Mark IIX for open gate, because I'm the type of dude, man, like if I am filming something with full frame lenses and I'm expecting a certain field of view, I don't want to crop in just to get open gate, and then I'm like trying to figure out my framing and everything like that. The only time I want to use APS-C crop is if I'm just shooting telephoto and I want to get a tighter shot, or if for some reason I just want to get tighter and maintaining full resolution. Like biggest weakness of like Sony A7S3 FX3 ZV1 is that it's only 12 megapixels. So there's not a true 4K APS-C crop for you to like crop in, but also still maintaining actual 4K resolution. But like, I don't want to whip out, I don't know, a 35 millimeter lens, and then I have to like figure out framing for what I'm shooting, based on open gate or whatever. I'd rather just like, I don't care for it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like with all this stuff, any camera you buy these days, over $800, you're the only limitation to what you could create is yourself. There's workarounds for everything. If I wanted to film horizontal, like I have a FX3, FX30, A7 IV ZV1. If I wanted to film like some talking head of a client, and for a reason, and for some reason I'm thinking I'm going to do like vertical and horizontal, my workaround be I'll just use two cameras, or I'll just crop in and it'll just be tighter in landscape. It's not going to kill me, and the workaround's not going to kill me, and how often I do that is very little. So it doesn't really affect me at all. The only real benefit to me, like, and this is to anyone who has been like contemplating about switching, like there's not many good, like solid reasons to go through the pains and suffering of switching like camera systems. Like, especially if you're like me, you own 4 cameras and multiple lenses. That means you would want to sell the bodies and the lenses. And if you want to get the most value for it, it's like a true pain in the ass. Like going to marketplace, whatever, and trying to sell this stuff and like answering people's messages and all that stuff. By the time you sell everything, Sony will announce a new camera, and then you're like, oh crap, what am I doing? And I heard Sony doesn't have any plans for open gate, which, I think they should, just to do it. You know what I mean? Because there's a good amount of people asking for it, even though it's really the minority. And I know it doesn't seem like that if you're like in the social media space, but like if you're in like other niche groups, so like I'm in a wedding videographer group, and there's way more wedding videographers in existence than there are camera content creators. There's just a lot of wedding videographers, and the vast majority of wedding videographers aren't asking for open gate. The vocal minority is always going to have the loudest voice, is always going to be the one that is heard, because most people, they go about their business, they don't give a crap. You know what I mean? But you have to cater to everyone, right? You have to cater to the mainstream. So the only real benefit of me switching from Sony to Panasonic or something like that is probably gaining more subscribers, like gaining Panasonic subscribers as I like do video examples and reviews of my new Panasonic camera. I'll gain subscribers, and I would assume that my loyal subscribers who started following me because of Sony content or whatever aren't going to just unsubscribe or something because I went from like Sony to like Panasonic. It's, that's kind of a tribal mentality. Like I follow so many content creators, and I followed them from going from Canon to Sony to this to like, I don't unsubscribe because they switch. I followed them because of like just their general content, like lighting and stuff like that. So like, most of us aren't only talking about cameras. We're talking about other gear too, gimbals, and that pertains to like everyone. So there's always value in someone regardless of what camera system they're on. So yeah, I mean, it'll probably help with growth. Like my channel, my YouTube channel will be a lot bigger if I, I switched from like Sony to Canon and then to like Panasonic, Nikon, Fuji and all that stuff. I know this because when I tried out the Fuji X-T4 back when it was released before Sony A7S was released in 2019. I had a big growth in my channel of Fuji users, and I didn't do this because I was just trying to grow. I was trying to just try out, I just wanted 4K 60, 10-bit 422 with a bigger sensor than Micro Four Thirds. So Fuji at the time was the only company doing that, and it had face detection autofocus. So I tried it out, and then I did videos of it, and I got a lot of subscribers from it. I gained a lot of subscribers that were on the Fuji system. So I know if I went to Canon, I'll gain a bunch of Canon subscribers, and then if I went to Panasonic, I'll gain a bunch of Panasonic. Panasonic and Canon users aren't going to like follow me. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to subscribe to me based on Sony videos. And my only real hope for those people to follow me is through other videos. So, that's just the way it is. Like, to be honest, I'm just a bad businessman because it's good for business for me to like do these things on social media. Like, it's crazy because as much as viewers complain about, tube douchers shilling and all that stuff, y'all love to be sold to. Okay, that's just a natural thing. People love to be sold to. Like as much tutorial videos y'all want, as much behind the scenes videos y'all want, as much filmmaking y'all want. I'm telling you right now, man, like I'll post those things and it gets way less views than when I like review some bullshit. Like I review some bullshit new gear and they get all the views, subscribers and all that stuff. When I do these non-gear review stuff videos, the people who don't watch my videos are my subscribers. It's the weirdest thing, guys. So like, what do you actually want? You want gear reviews? You want me to like, clown, which is fine. That's what I'm here for. There's a lot of reasons why, after like multiple years of being on YouTube, let's see, like, what is it? How long has it been here? I probably started like really diving deep, really started to post consistently on YouTube like back in 2017. I have like a ton of videos. What is it, like 700 videos, something like that. So if you look at those stats, like I should have way more views, way more subscribers, but I don't. And a lot of it is because SEO, I'm not the best at making thumbnails. I'm not the best at SEO. My content isn't for everyone. Like my people don't understand my jokes all the time. And maybe not like, some of the inappropriate things I say YouTube doesn't like, and, they filter that out and like, they don't really recommend my stuff. Whatever it is, like I am not the most marketable channel. Okay. My content, the way I do it is not very marketable because my content itself is not very marketable because I say wild shit. My jokes can be seen as offensive, to everyone except for the people other than the people I'm supposed to be offending. So like when I do Vietnamese accent, Vietnamese people love it. I get positive comments from the Vietnamese community. They follow, they subscribe, and they completely understand it. They love it when I like, say random Vietnamese cuss words within it that no one else understands. And the funniest thing is, a lot of my growth on social media is from me doing these Vietnamese impersonation, these Vietnamese accents with the other character. And when you grow and when you start getting attention, that's when you get attention of what? Brands, right? So a brand, like I'm not going to name names or anything, but like a brand reached out to me to review filters. And hey, great filters. I highly recommended it. Like honestly, don't take what I'm saying here and then like all of a sudden not buy something from, the particular brand, because if a brand makes good stuff, they make good stuff, man. Like who cares about like, where they are, like politically, where they are, whatever. If they are producing good shit and providing, the service that is promised, who cares? You know what I mean? Just found me, through YouTube or whatever, and asked me to like review filter, and then asked me a short and a long video. And if y'all know my short content, it's 98% let me show you Vietnamese accent. So I told them, I was like, hey, like, you want me to do, like, how about I do one reel, the same type of reels, the same type of reels as my let me show you Instagram, and then I'll do also like a longer, 10-minute YouTube review of the filters. And they said, okay. I do the reel. I do a video, breaking down the filters, but I told them it's not, I don't want this to count towards like the 10-minute video because it's just a quick breakdown or whatever. And I did a reel, which I expected it to count towards like my 1-minute reel, my 1-minute Instagram reel requirement. And I got an email saying that they can't accept this video because it's inappropriate, it's offensive. Okay. Had a call with the rep, and he told me, look, like, it's offensive. We can't post it. We would love to share your video on like our platforms, to also like get you the exposure, which I didn't care for because I don't really get any much exposure. Like when brands post my videos on their like social medias, I don't really gain any followers, like if I do gain, it's like 1 or 2, maybe 3. I don't really gain much more. Like most of my followers and stuff like that, subscribers are gained just organically of me doing my own thing. And that doesn't really benefit me as a channel. But I can tell you that the reel that I did that they didn't like benefited them. Okay. It had a lot of views. People message me, DM me, telling me that, hey, like, thanks for the video. I'm gonna buy that filter. Thanks for this, that, and the other. I'm gonna buy that filter. Can you send me a link? And all that stuff, man. Like, I know. So anyways, they told me that I need to redo a video that's not offensive. Don't use the accent. And I remember the guy, he said that, what if he sent this to the main, the main bigwigs in China, like, and they saw this video. I can't imagine what they'll think. Like, they'll be all so so offended about it. And then in my mind at first, I was like, why would the Chinese get offended? The Vietnamese accent. And then that's when I realized the guy like didn't even know what accent I was using. He assumed that because I'm Asian and there was an accent that it was a Chinese accent. But I'll tell you right now, the vast majority of Asians, we have trained ears, and we all know which accents are which. And there's a huge difference between a Chinese and a Vietnamese accent. So if anything, what he said was way more offensive about Vietnamese accents than my Vietnamese accent itself could ever be. With me saying all this stuff, like, I completely understand, why they won't I completely understand why my content may not match with the majority of brands out there. It's not the most marketable thing, and when you're talking about corporate stuff, like, everyone wants to play it safe. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to offend anyone. You don't want to, do any of this, that, and the other, because unfortunately there's people out there that just don't mind their own business. Like, they got offended for everyone else. If the brand posted my video up that they assume was offensive, and they did get a complaint for it being offensive, it would not come from the people they think I'm offending, which means Vietnamese people are going to be like messaging. It's probably going to be some random, like, liberal white dude complaining like, yo, that's really offensive to those Chinese people, that guy doing a Vietnamese accent. Shit makes no sense. So I made them this video, 10 minutes long. And at first it was just me talking about the filters, showing like the review and everything. And as I went through this, it was, I did this review more like a film. It wasn't like a sit down review like this. And I was showing the stuff, and I say like, filtering is, good, but you can't use filters all the time. And then I gave an example of when you shouldn't use a filter. And then I said you shouldn't use filters on human beings. I went on the whole spiel about how Vietnamese accent is important to my culture, how the accent that I use in my videos are from my mom, my parents, my uncles, those that have provided for me, those that has, supported me, put me through college and all that stuff. And why like my accent is more than just me like mocking. It's me educating, me making people aware of what it's like to be Vietnamese, Asian, American, whatever. And I sent it to them and they never responded back. So my assumption is that they don't like my pettiness and they're probably never going to reach out to me again. And that's a shame, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like leave corporate accounting, go into videography and stuff to become a YouTube douchebag and like be a corporate cubicle again, right? Because if I sit here and I don't like express myself the way I want to, talk about gear the way I want to, on my own channel, what's the point, right? Like, why did I leave a cubicle just to sit down on another cubicle? So I completely understand this is not good. This is not good for me in terms of YouTube growth. This is just the reality of it. Like, and sadly, this is not like the best channel. This is not the best niche to be doing content like this because the ad revenue is not great. And like most content creators, man, most content creators doing this camera niche stuff, the only way they make money is through sponsorships, brand deals, and stuff like that, right? And if you're not playing ball, if you're not presenting the way they want you to, that fits their brand and everything, it's just not going to happen, Like, I wish this channel could be like some of these other channels I watch where, like, there's one dude, he just goes around traveling and getting, like, eating and getting, like, massages and stuff like that. And he's just filming that. And he doesn't have any sponsors. He's not selling anything. He's just making money off of, like, ad revenue. Like, I wish that was the case for my channel, but this is just not the niche to be making, to be getting like 1 million views per video. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be lucky to get 1,000 views, on some of my videos. So, you got to get those affiliate links and all that stuff. And the crazy thing is, like, I had a really good relationship with Lanzi, the brand. And then I was wondering, like, this brand, just keep on sending me stuff. Long story short, somehow I ended up getting 3 True Root tripods. I'm like, why are they sending me so many? And then I realized that I just make them a lot of money. Like, just me being honest and talking about, the gear, the way I do it on like my Let Me Show You videos, offensive, the whole 9 yards. People buy their lights, and I was looking at my affiliate income from them, and it's a good deal, So they're making money off of my content, and they recognize that, and they didn't mind sending me stuff. There's brands I could name that are completely cool with the content I make, namely Condor Blue. Like, bro, you understand? Like, I don't feel like selling stuff. Okay, I've been selling stuff since I was like 16. Okay, started working at McDonald's, selling burgers and stuff like that, asking people if they want fries with that and all that stuff. And then I started working at I went door to door, selling like window estimates and stuff like that, doing like a whole spiel, in the middle of people's dinner time. And I was actually reasonably successful with that. Then I went to Best Buy, started selling there. Worked for like a car mod shop where, like, they're selling like wheels and like mufflers, exhausts, whatever, you name it, modifying your. I was selling that stuff. Like, I've been selling. Okay. Like 80% of selling is bullshitting or exaggerating. Okay. That's just the reality of it. That's why there's sales strategy. That's why, people, when you're training, they always like, I want you to sell me this. You ever heard the thing? Oh, I want you to sell me this pen. It's like, people love being sold stuff, man. That's why marketing works. That's why, like, Apple is successful, branding, the whole 9 yards, guys. Like, I don't like doing that stuff. Okay. Like, my wedding videography stuff, I don't like selling, man. Like, when I go in the consult with a couple, I just tell them straight up, I appreciate you liking my work. This is how I do things. This is like, what it cost. Let me know what you need from me. Like, I'm not trying to upsell. I said, hey, look, like, I just be like, hey, look, if you want additional edits or like longer raw footage and stuff like that, like, here's the price list for that. And like, that's it. I'm not going to like, oh, you're going to really need it. Like a few years from now, all my couples, they get really, they regret that I didn't get it and like they end up buying it. So like, you could buy it now, whatever. I don't do that stuff. If I did, I'll probably make more money though. I just can't, like I've been doing that. So, and I'm not about to be go on my YouTube channel and just selling stuff, I'll gladly take money for like sponsors and stuff like that. If they want to sponsor the channel, I'll gladly take it. But best believe I'm not going to be taking those sponsorships if I don't believe in the product I am sponsoring. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to talk about any product on my channel, paid or unpaid, if I don't like it. And if I'm not going to actually use it or don't already use it day to day, and have a good experience with it. Like Sony is, a great camera system like every other camera system. And, it has their flaws. Like FX3a just came out. It's basically just an FX3 with an updated LCD screen because, they're no longer, the older LCD screen is no longer in production. So now I think it's the FX30 LCD screen, which is like, has more resolution to it. So they couldn't just name it. They couldn't just say like, oh, it's an FX3. They had to put FX3a. And I guess in the midst of that, they just decided to throw in like a dual battery charger or whatever. And, everyone's up in arms because, oh, Sony just announced a new camera and it's like trash because like there's no updates. Guys, like all they did was they're continuing the FX3, and because they're continuing to produce FX3, and because changing the monitor with like more resolution is a significant change enough where they can't just keep naming it an FX3. They just had to add an A to it to discern between the old original FX3 with the old monitor and the new FX3 with a new monitor. And that's it. It's either they do it this way or they just take the FX3 off the market because they no longer have the original screen for it. All right. So that's all it is. But, and with the new screen, the screen is still trash. Like compared to, I don't know, Canon and Panasonic, like Sony has trash screens. That's just my opinion on it. But other than that, like in terms of like wish list, all I really need is more dynamic range. That is like, and even that is a luxury because the FX3 and stuff has plenty of dynamic range for what I do, and from what most people do. Again, like I don't want to sit there and beat a dead horse with like the Creator, but clearly the FX3 had good enough dynamic range for Hollywood on a big screen. But because at the end of the day, if you light well, the dynamic range should always be good enough. But I wouldn't mind more. And hey, OpenGate would be a great luxury. And I think if Sony doesn't include OpenGate, with all these loudmouth tube douchers, which are like my colleagues, my friends out there, they're going to sway you over to Panasonic and whatever because of OpenGate. And then you're going to buy that and then you're going to sit there and like barely use it. I don't know, man. Like maybe the reason why I don't have a big following, as I should, is because I'm a dumbass and like my opinions are just trash. It is what it is. So again, all this stuff is my opinion, man. Like I don't care what the hell you use. Do whatever you want to do with your life, gear, whatever. You know what I mean? Like until next time, just lighten up. Hey man, what camera is that? As always, man, this is just my Sony FX3 on a Cineback rig. Oh my god, Sony, it trash. You need to switch to Panasonic. My FX3 has been good to me and it does everything I need it to do, so I'm not trying to switch to anything. You need to switch to Panasonic S1R Mark II for opening gay. Why would I want to switch to Panasonic to be openly gay? No, open gay? Bro, I have a wife and 2 kids. I'm not gay. No, man, not gay. I said open gay. Oh, you mean open gate? The only time I use open gate video is when I'm going fishing and I have a POV cam on my chest, which is the DJI Action 5 Pro, which can do open gate. And it allows me to get a 16:9 aspect ratio for YouTube, but also vertical for Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, whatever it is you post on. Let me show you.
All the YouTubers love the open gate.
Bro, people could do whatever they want to do, man. It's none of my business.
If you want to be the best, if you want to be professional, if you want to sponsor to do your trip, if you want to silver YouTube plug, you need to buy Panasonic for the open gate.
Not gonna lie, the only sponsorship you should be concerned about is that sponsorship for that green card. And the only open gate you should be worried about is that American border gate, which is definitely not open. And ICE is literally rolling around right now like Panasonic rolling shutter looking for your ass.
Where can I buy a USA green card for only $29.99?